Hey everybody, it's Gino Caldwell. You may know me as a national political analyst, but today I'm here to tell you about my new podcast series, Out Loud with Gino Caldwell, the sworn enemy of PC culture. I'll interview national guests from all walks of life and real people discussing issues on culture and politics, as well as the controversies that have social media blazing. Listen to Out Loud with Gino Caldwell every Monday on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast.
On this episode of Newt's World,
we actually do know what failure looks like in a pandemic. It was 2009. The swine flu arrived in the United States. Not 7.5 million people contracted the swine flu. 60 million Americans contracted the swine flu. If the swine flu had been as lethal as the coronavirus in 2009, when Joe Biden was vice president, we would have lost 2 million American lives.
Whatever the vice president is claiming the administration has done, clearly it hasn't worked. When you're looking at over 210,000 dead bodies in our country.
When you say what the American people have done over these last 8 months hasn't worked, that's a great disservice to the sacrifices the American people have made. Are you and Joe Biden, if somehow you win this election, going to pack the Supreme Court to get your way?
And do you know that of the 50 people who President Trump appointed to the Court of Appeals for lifetime appointments, not one is black? He, on the issue of Charlottesville, where people were peacefully protesting, and Donald Trump, when asked about it, said there were fine people on both sides.
He condemned the KKK, neo-Nazis, and white supremacists, and has done so repeatedly. This is a president who respects and cherishes all of the American people.
We now know Donald Trump owes and is in debt for $400 million. And just so everyone is clear, when we say in debt, it means you owe money to somebody.
Joe Biden has been a cheerleader for communist China over the last several decades. And Senator Harris, you're entitled to your opinion. You're not entitled to your own facts.
hi, this is Newt. Due to the virus, I'm recording from home, so you may notice a difference in audio quality. We're going to talk about debates. The debate that we just had with the vice presidential candidates and the effort by the debate commission to change the game on President Trump for the next debate. So let me start with last night's debate, which is so one-sided, it was amazing. I thought Vice President Pence was very well prepared, had practiced, understood exactly what he's going to try to accomplish, did a great job. I thought Kamala Harris proved that as a San Francisco radical, that she really probably wasn't the person most Americans want to have hanging out. She struck me as sort of Hillary Clinton without the charm. She really had somewhere between her smirk and her presumption that the rest of us are stupid. For example, she used a story about Abraham Lincoln that's just plain untrue.
I'm so glad we went through a little history lesson. Let's do that a little more. In 1864...
Well, I'd like you to answer the question.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. I'm speaking. Okay. In 1864, one of the, I think, political heroes, certainly of the president, I assume of you also, Mr. Vice President, is Abraham Lincoln. Mm-hmm. Abraham Lincoln was up for re-election. And it was 27 days before the election. And a seat became open on the United States Supreme Court. Abraham Lincoln's party was in charge not only of the White House, but the Senate. But Honest Abe said it's not the right thing to do. The American people deserve to make the decision about who will be the next president of the United States. And then that person can select who will serve for a lifetime on the highest court of our land. And so Joe and I are very clear. The American people are voting right now, and it should be their decision about who will serve on this most important body for a lifetime.
Thank you. A good friend of mine, who's a very senior professor on the Civil War, wrote me and said it was just a lie. And then somebody else has written an article saying it was just totally false. But it was sort of typical of her. She was totally misleading about fracking, where she clearly had committed to kill it. She was totally misleading about the Green New Deal, where she had, in fact, been the first person to introduce the bill for AOC in the Senate. And I thought in particular, I liked Vice President Pence's calm, pressuring her about whether or not she and Biden would favor packing the Supreme Court. And like Biden last week, she refused to say.
Citizens are voting right now. They'd like to know if you and Joe Biden are going to pack the Supreme Court if you don't get your way in this nomination.
Let's talk about packing.
You once again gave a non-answer. Joe Biden gave a non-answer.
Trying to answer you
the
now.
American people deserve a straight answer. And if you haven't figured it out yet, the straight answer is they are going to pack the Supreme Court if they somehow win this election. Men and women, I got to tell you, people across this country, if you cherish our Supreme Court, if you cherish the separation of powers, you need to reject the Biden-Harris ticket. Come November the 3rd, re-elect President Donald Trump, and we'll stand by that separation of powers in a 9-seat Supreme Court.
Yeah, let's talk about packing the court then. Let's talk about the fact. Yeah, I'm about to. So the Trump-Pence administration has been, because I sit on the Senate Judiciary Committee, Susan, as you mentioned, and I've witnessed the appointments for lifetime appointments to the federal courts, district courts, courts of appeal. People who are purely ideological, people who have been reviewed by legal professional organizations and found to have been not competent, are substandard. And do you know that of the 50 people who President Trump appointed to the Court of Appeals for lifetime appointments, not one is black? This is what they've been doing. You want to talk about packing a court? Let's have that discussion.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Senator. Let's go on and talk about the issue of racial justice.
I just want the record to reflect she never answered the question. So I think maybe the next debate, Joe Biden will answer the question. But I think the American people know the answer.
Thank you, Vice President.
It was just great. He came back at the end and said, see, you didn't answer again. And I thought that kind of calm, steady, pleasant work, which frankly, Mark Thiessen's written a great article about in the Washington Post today. And I agree with Thiessen. President Trump would be very well served to watch that debate 2 or 3 times, then sit down and talk with his vice president and develop a much calmer approach than he had last week. Hi, this is Newt. I want to invite you to sign up for a yearly subscription to my Inner Circle membership club. We're in a critical time in our history where the outcome of the next election will set us on a course of 2 very different American futures. As a member of my Inner Circle, you'll receive exclusive invitations to join my video conferences with 2020 election updates and my analysis of the upcoming presidential debates. Here's a special offer for my podcast listeners. Join my Inner Circle today at newtsinnercircle.com. And if you sign up for a 1 or 2 year membership, you'll receive a limited edition Inner Circle Challenge coin, exclusive to 500 members only, as part of your membership welcome package. And as an Inner Circle member, you'll receive an invitation to attend my members only event, Live with Newt, a discussion on the next presidential debate. And there are many other benefits of membership. Sign up for a 1 or 2 year membership today at newtsinnercircle.com. That's newtsinnercircle.com.
Hey everybody, it's Gino Caldwell. You may know me as a national political analyst, but today I'm here to tell you about my new podcast series, Out Loud with Gino Caldwell, the sworn enemy of PC culture. I'll interview national guests from all walks of life and real people discussing issues on culture and politics, as well as the controversies that have social media blazing. Listen to Out Loud with Gino Caldwell every Monday on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast.
I just want to comment about the next debate, which I hope will occur. I think the best compromise would be to have it occur the way John F. Kennedy and Richard Nixon did it, which would be in a TV studio. There's 0 health problems there. You can put them 20 feet apart or 30 feet apart if you need to. I agree with the president on 2 different grounds. One, I don't think he should trust the debate commission or the moderator to have a virtual debate where he doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know exactly what's happening with Biden, and where they could cut him off at any time and he'd have no control over it. 2, he ought to be enraged that the debate commission on their own decided that they would change the rules without negotiating, without explaining it, and you'd learn about it from a press release. And I don't see any reason for him to give in to a bunch of self-appointed people who've decided that they're so important they can dictate to the President of the United States. In fact, I feel it so strongly that my newsletter is going to be on abolishing the debate commission. Its average member is 73 years old. The director has been the director since 1987. The so-called Republicans in the commission, most of them are anti-Trump. It has no real legitimacy, and it was only supposed to make agreements that both candidates agreed to. And it's very obvious, one, that they came up with this idea of a virtual debate without negotiating or communicating with the campaign. Two, that they, I believe, deliberately released it this morning to cut off the coverage of Mike Pence having won last night. I suspect had Kamala Harris won, they might have waited 2 more days to let the news media cover how brilliant she was. But this way, they were trying to smother the vice president's victory. And that's why I think we ought to abolish the commission. Campaigns can get together and negotiate with each other. They can set up a way of doing things. I mean, why does the commission get to pick 4 moderators who you know are going to be left of center? The next moderator, by the way, if they did this virtual debate, is somebody who was an intern for Joe Biden. I happen to know the guy, and I think he's a nice guy. But if I were the president, I'd go from the first debate, which clearly people thought was biased against him, the second debate, where Pence had to make sure that he did not allow the moderator to dominate. It shouldn't be necessary for Republicans to always be in a 2-to-1 disadvantage. We ought to say, terrific. We would like to have either Sean Hannity or Tucker Carlson as one of the moderators. Now, what do you think the odds are that Joe Biden would allow either Tucker Carlson or Sean Hannity to ask questions? But they assume Republicans are patsies, and we'll put up with whoever they decide to drop in front of us because we don't have nerve. One of the things you got to say is Donald Trump has nerve. The number one thing to remember about polling is that Trump is today almost exactly where he was with Hillary Clinton. At this stage in 2016, in 3 out of 5 polls, she had a double-digit lead. Her average lead was 9.6%. Trump did not begin to catch up at all until late October and then closed amazingly fast. I think that there is a deliberate effort to run polls to demoralize us. I'll give you an example. NBC's poll oversampled Democrats by at least 13%. Well, guess what? If you have a sample which is 13% more Democrat, Biden's going to have a much bigger lead. Now, they knew that, and they knew that it didn't in any way relate to what the percent would have been in the exit polls in either 16 or 18. So that's a part of it. The most interesting poll I've seen, and I look carefully for indicators because I totally distrust the big media polls. Zogby, who's not necessarily a Republican, in fact, I think he's probably a moderate Democrat. Zogby just had a poll that showed the race tied. But the reason he showed the race tied is that in his survey, he actually has Trump getting 35 or 36% of both the Black and Latino vote. Now, I believe that among Latinos because I think the defense of law and order means a great deal in the Latino community, which is seen in South America, the cost of corruption and the cost of crime. I also believe Trump's emphasis on the work ethic, the fact that they had the lowest Latino unemployment in history, all that helped. I'm a little surprised at Zogby's numbers in the Black community because of the continuous pressure to keep the community isolated from Republicans and to attack anybody who claims that they're willing to be for the Republicans. But I see a whole new generation of younger people coming along, and I think that's having a big impact and is really improving the communication in the Black community. I also believe that the fact that they had the lowest Black unemployment in February in history has an impact. I think the degree to which the president has helped historically black universities and colleges has had an impact. So there are a lot of good things happening that I think we have to be aware of. And it could turn out to be remarkably different than the current prognosis. I saw a note this morning in states like North Carolina, Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Arizona, the Republicans getting ballots are actually doing very, very well. Much better than people expected, frankly. And I think that's a significant part of what's going on. Newt's World is produced by Gingrich 360 and iHeartMedia. Our executive producer is Debbie Myers, and our producer is Garnsey Sloan. Our researcher is Rachel Peterson. The artwork for the show was created by Steve Pendley. Special thanks to the team at Gingrich 360. Please email me with your questions at gingrich360.com/questions. I'll answer a selection of questions in future episodes. If you've been enjoying Newt's World, I hope you'll go to Apple Podcasts and both rate us with 5 stars and give us a review so others can learn what it's all about. I'm Newt Gingrich. This is Newt's World.
Hey everybody, it's Gino Caldwell. You may know me as a national political analyst, but today I'm here to tell you about my new podcast series, Out Loud with Gino Caldwell, the sworn enemy of PC culture. I'll interview national guests from all walks of life and real people discussing issues on culture and politics, as well as the controversies that have social media blazing. Listen to Out Loud with Gino Caldwell every Monday on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast.